What's up, everybody? My name is Brandon Clements. This is an episode of Dead Dialect podcast, and this is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a lot of fun because this is something we don't do a lot, talk to other podcasts. We haven't done this. I don't think we've ever done this.
No, we haven't done it once.
No?
At all.
No. I'm like thinking, I don't know. No, we haven't.
You've been on other podcasts.
I've been on other podcasts. Actually, I've only been on one other podcast, and that was yours.
Hey, hi.
So let's go ahead and preface this by just saying, well, I'll say this. Houston is a city that just doesn't have a lot of podcasts. And as of a couple of years ago, didn't really have a lot of, I don't want to say art, but let's just think in the last decade, right? And how much things have changed, how much more things there are to talk about, how many more people are being creatively efficient and are making things and are, trying to be different. It's made our job kind of impossible to have. I mean, as of 4 years ago, we were like, we know a lot of people that are talented. We should probably start talking to them. And as far as I knew, there was only one other podcast at the time, and that was Whiskey Brothers. And those were the guys who'd been around for a fucking decade and shit. And of course, this has never, ever been... I'm not thinking about this in terms of competition at all, because that's stupid. But going into it, I thought... well, shit, there's really not a lot going on in terms of podcasting. And then you guys popped up. And it was never for me like, oh, fuck. It was always like, oh, fuck, yeah. Because I'm the kind of guy that thinks that everyone should have a podcast. Well, not everyone. Some people suck. But I think that if you can do it and you want to do it, you should do it. Because everyone has something to say.
There's not a limited amount of shine, right? Like, we can all shine to a rising tide lifts all boats.
Right,
It's
exactly.
the fourth largest city in the U.S., and there's not enough podcasts covering what's going on in this city.
Somehow, right? But for me, it was very exciting to see you guys doing it and doing it well. And doing it like new young people. You weren't like, I love the Whiskey Brothers, but nothing I've ever talked about has been relevant to me, frankly. It's never anything I wanted to kind of listen to. I was like, I don't know that we're listening to the same music or going to the same shows. And again, I love them. But I wanted to provide something that I felt was relevant to the people that I saw and the things I cared about. And I felt you guys were on the same page. And it was super exciting to see you guys exist. And in a lot of ways, me and Julian have felt like you guys are kind of like a brother podcast in a lot of ways.
I mean, likewise.
Yeah, thanks. Same.
It's been fucking exciting, man, watching you guys. And you guys are seriously more, you're busier than us. Believe it or not.
Sure. You got a consistent, a one a week
like
podcast?
We try to have an episode every single week.
We're getting on that now.
So before we get into talking about details of what you guys doing, I just wanted to say, sorry for this taking so long, A. B, I've loved you guys since you guys have started because I love podcasters, and you guys kill it. You guys just kill it. I mean, when I was on the show, you guys invited me on the show, I was like, oh, fuck yeah, I'd never been invited on a show before. And it was so much fun. It was so much fun. You guys knew what you were doing. There was no bullshit. I remember going back to Julian like, these guys know what they're doing. We should probably get a transition going. Or, little things. So it's super exciting to have you guys here and just congrats on being awesome and killing it, man. Because it's been a lot of fun watching you guys do the thing.
Thanks.
It really has.
It's extremely flattering. It's nice to hear someone think that we know what we're doing.
That's how we feel. We're like, we don't really know.
And likewise, I mean, I've always kind of viewed you guys as kindred spirits that, because there aren't a whole lot of good podcasts in this town, because a lot of podcasts start up, but keeping it going, that's the hard part.
Right, yeah.
I think almost every creator in this town has gone, oh man, I could do a podcast, and that they'll create one, and maybe it'll be good for 3 or 4 episodes, and then week 6, week 7, they're just like, oh wait, I have to keep doing this.
Yeah. Well, if we really want to talk about how many there are in Houston, there's 4 podcasts in Houston right now. There's 4. There's you, there's us, there's regular, or there's
Relationship,
fucking Relationship, and then there's Whiskey Brothers. Yeah. That's pretty much it. I mean, there's a couple more that have just started, but none that I can think of have been around for more than a year, let alone 2, let alone 3.
Watch the comment section going to blow up with all these podcast suggestions, and we're just out of the loop.
So right, fucking assholes. You don't know about the
for 5 fucking years.
I don't know if you've seen the thing now on Instagram where you can follow a hashtag, but I started following the hashtag Houston Podcast, and so I'm filtering. There's a lot of shit, but there's some good ones.
Pretty decent ones.
Yeah, cause I always try to encourage people too, because I know when you start out, you're like, dude, would somebody please just listen to this motherfucker?
Yeah.
So
it's weird because, and this is one of the things I wanted to talk to you about, was why you guys started it. Because I know personally me and Julian started it because we wanted to provide a medium and a platform for people that we felt like weren't didn't really have that medium or platform, and it was never about us. Like we know that we're obviously interested in these people and maybe okay at talking to them and prying out some answers, but ultimately we knew that the show was going to be about other people. So for you guys, what was the reason for starting up Regular Dude Report, and what were the means behind wanting to do it?
I think the first thing is that we're fucking really good friends. We've just been friends for
Just been homies.
I mean, since like 6th, 7th grade, I think.
Yeah. Shit.
Yeah,
same shit.
And originally we weren't even planning on having guests because I think the first 30, 40 episodes we didn't.
Was just y'all.
Yeah, I think I kind of reached a point in my life where I realized I'm happiest when I'm creating. Of course, I also play guitar in a band too, and which was
you do
kind of. I'm sorry.
I said yes, you do.
Yeah.
Yes, you do.
We're kind of on a break at the moment, and I remember just thinking like I was really into podcasts. Brad's really into podcasts. And Brad's my best friend, but also we also have very different takes on life too at the same time. So I always thought that played really well together. Mm-hmm. So eventually, I kind of just had this idea like I would love to do a podcast, and I want to do it specifically with Brad.
So it just came out alone of like we should talk together on the mic.
He messaged me and was like, "Hey, we've always wanted to do something creative together. Here's a pretty inexpensive way we can do it." He already had sort of like some home recording equipment because of the band and because he does music, and I never was good enough as a musician to play in a band with him, essentially. So he's just like, a lot of our hangs, man, we grew up in suburbia, right? So it's like get drunk in someone's backyard on the porch. And that's what our podcast is we drink beer and we talk about what we did this week and what's on our minds. And man, we would have conversations. Sometimes it's about religion and sometimes it's about dog dicks.
Yeah, I know.
So,
pretty versatile.
that covers the gamut pretty well.
Yeah.
Even on the episode I was on, I think we went from talking about, I think it was when Pat called in and talked about he's wearing diapers.
Yes.
And then, so we talked about diapers. But then I think someone who listened got mad, right? Did I recall that correctly?
I don't know if they got mad. Some people get offended. I think
they accused me of not being open.
Oh yeah, that's what it was.
To his diaper fetish.
You were like kink
but that was
him.
A joke.
And I was
like, did you realize that he wasn't serious about the diapers?
I'm not sure if he was serious.
Regardless, what I was saying wasn't, and the fact that they were like, you should be more accepting of people that want to wear diapers when they fuck was kind of crazy. It was kind of crazy. Like, whoa!
I didn't think we even had fans like that anymore. I figured ones that would be that offended would have left a long time ago.
You didn't figure this out by now?
So, what caused the shift between just being you two and then having guests all of a sudden?
I started doing stand-up, I think, was part of it. Part of it is a strategy to grow the show and also just to keep things more interesting. I met comics, and so comics became fans of the show.
I see.
And so comics are good people to have on the show because they'll talk about anything.
They just go off.
They'll just carry the show for you too.
Sometimes there's some ego stuff.
Yeah, but we don't always get comics. Although that tends to be most guests. I mean, we have musicians come on. We've had some of our friends come on. Sometimes those are the best guests too.
Oh, one of the best episodes we had was a friend of ours named Joe, who he just had such an interesting life.
That's kind of what it comes down to. Is like it doesn't even really matter what they're doing, who they are, if people want to listen to them. I mean, how many times have you been to a party and you're like, that guy's fucking interesting? There's just one guy going off in a circle, but you have no idea who he is. Like that's kind of what I like into a lot of podcasts. I mean, when I listen to a lot of Joe Rogan Experience, I don't know who the guest is.
Yeah.
Like that's how you learn, or even when we go into these episodes, I don't know how much research you guys do when you're talking to someone you don't necessarily know about, but I don't really like to do any at all because I'm more into like finding it out right now. Like, you got something coming out? No, granted, I should probably know that, but I like the idea of finding it out like organically, just like the guest or the listener would be too. How often do you guys experiment with having guests on, as opposed to just like someone or do you ever try to like?
I mean,
what do you mean by
usually when I say that, I mean how often do you go into an episode knowing that you're literally there to find out things?
I think half the time you already know a good amount about them. A lot of times he'll bring in guests that I've never met them, so I have that approach. But it's people that he's met through comedies usually. So
I guess it's kind of
because you guys get a lot of national people, and we currently are not doing that. So you guys
and we never know those motherfuckers.
Yes.
Well, we had a guest recently who talked about this whole thing with cam girls.
My free camps.
He's addicted to cam girls.
Yeah.
And he's put himself in like financial dire straits with cam girls.
Oh, remember you had that fucking era where you were just like so fucking God, dude.
It was a rough year.
So
it's a real addiction, y'all.
Dude, and the funny thing about that is I've gotten such an array of responses from that episode where some people come up and they're like, "That's so funny." Like they think that the guy's pathetic. Then I've had some people say that happened to me. Then I've had some people say like, "I could see how that could happen to me," or you know what I mean?
But
like,
you didn't know that about him going into it?
I knew it, but I guess we don't ever actively try and pull anything out of anyone. We don't lead anybody.
I mean, that's
anything.
something a lot of people would want to keep private. So I'm actually kind of shocked that he brought it up.
But yeah, he brought it up, and he wanted to keep talking about it. And so like anytime somebody opens a door like that, I go down that path.
Right.
Our show has a structure, but if something like that, if a gift like that comes to me and somebody's willing and open to talk, because that's what we're trying to get. We're trying to get every person has some sort of unique thing or experience. I want to know about your unique experience, right? I want you to be funny and tell me about your unique experience.
I guess that was my next question was what is the goal in terms of every conversation, every episode? Because I know it's not just let's sit down and bullshit. Like that's easy, and that maybe what it comes down to. But what's the goal for what you want a listener to walk out of, or what you guys to walk out of when you end these conversations?
Like I said, tell a story, enhance. The second half of our show is like news stories, right? But we don't really care as much about the stories as we do your point of view.
Yeah,
or
right.
like, or sometimes it's different with each guest. Some guests are just great riffers. They're like you can get on a news story and they can they can kind of improv on it and make it funny.
And some guests like they want to get serious depending on the topic. So like for example, like on yesterday's episode, I mean, we covered a very the serious case of like the family that had were chaining their kids to their beds. And then the next story was about a guy that had his a poop knife.
And so tagline,
yeah. So
what do you mean a poop knife?
Exactly,
like a knife
right?
made of poop?
No.
See, no,
I thought it was like a pool.
Listen to the episode, everybody.
Yeah.
It's a guy that the short version is the guy like he thought that every family I guess he made a dump in a friend's toilet and he clogged it.
Like you said, he made a dump.
Yes, he created it.
Okay,
and
burst it.
Like I guess growing up, his family had like a knife that if you clog your toilet, you would just stab the poop.
No, so he's like, I just cut it up.
So he called out to his friend, like, "Hey, where's your poop knife?"
Oh no!
He thought it was regular. He thought it was a normal thing. Holy shit! But it was. I mean, it was a big knife. It's probably a pretty big knife.
It's just like an old butcher
short
knife,
machete.
Hey man, you got a poop knife in here? I don't see it.
We made a fake commercial for the poop
We
knife.
did.
Yeah. So that's another thing we like to do is like just be creative.
But like, but I guess the point I was trying to make was like some guests like they wanted to only talk. Some will only want to do like the serious stuff, and some people just want to riff about poop knives. So
yeah,
I think we're good about if we do know the guest well enough, we kind of can like pick stories like that kind of cater to their style a little bit.
Yeah.
I think the goal is to entertain.
Yeah.
And to captivate and on some level to inform, because I feel like the show is for all of our people back in the suburb that we came from on some level. That is kind of my audience. That's why we called it Regular Dude Report. It's for the regular ass type dudes we grew up with. Sometimes they're wrong about shit, and dude, people message me like I'm like some sort of barometer of how they should feel. People message me about that H&M thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Like, do you is H&M racist? Do you really believe H&M is racist? And I'm like, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, right?
Right.
But probably.
Right.
Yeah. But the fact that they come for you for like an opinion, like they're using it as like a
you know what I
gauge.
mean. So
that's what happens when you start speaking into a mic, man.
They listen to our show and they're like, oh, these are guys like me, right? These are and so.
But there's something about carrying that dynamic too, right? I mean, knowing that people are listening to you, but you want to maintain this. You're still yourself, right? I mean, like for instance, I never like to go into any interviews in a question answer format because it's so weird. Like I don't understand that. Like they're probably going to say this, and then I'll follow up with this question. Like that shit stresses me out.
We tried that. We might have done some version of that when you came on.
Well, yeah, we tried that.
It didn't work out.
It can work. I just think you're often like killing like actual organic conversation.
This
which
format
is way better,
right? Yeah, and from a listener's perspective, like, which one would you think they'd rather hear? Like, a real conversation where it feels like they're sitting in on it, or just like a 1, 2, 3, 4, a
Too much
bullet
structure is never
pointed.
gonna,
Although the structure of y'all's show is great. Like I one thing we've never done is structured anything. I mean,
Have segments.
I don't know how
Sure.
to do that shit. So I admire the fuck out of you guys for like staying diligent and
It's pretty
keeping that shit entertaining.
It's pretty loose, but the whole idea
Yeah.
was to start with. It was a crutch to begin with. It was like we
you need something to talk about.
we couldn't generate
Right,
enough content
Yeah.
to get to an hour.
If you go back and listen to like episode 1, 2, 3, 4, I mean, they're like 30 minutes. Like they're real short. So eventually we kind of became like, yeah, like how do we fill time? So like, you know, we added like a sports segment for a while, and then once we realized we didn't need that anymore, we cut it. And
we
then,
don't know shit about sports.
Well, nothing more than you don't already don't
What can
know.
you-
I
what-
guess
not an informative amount,
Yeah.
right?
What could we add? Yeah, we're not doing analysis.
So what are some goals that you guys have for maybe this year? Some immediate goals for the show.
I'm moving up and going for bigger and bigger fish. I think with the pod, which some of that is networking.
Which you guys have definitely inspired me in that regard for sure. Like, because like whenever I see you guys pull some of these like huge guests, I'm just like, damn, like. It's like I'm proud of you guys and also like jealous
Yeah.
too. I'm just like, wow, like
And,
okay.
I mean,
Like,
you'd be surprised how we do that, dude. A lot of times it's just
People ask,
you
and we just hit
DMs
them up on
on
social
Instagram.
media.
Yeah, you told me one time, right? You just DM people on
hit 'em
Instagram
up.
sometimes, right? Like,
Just hit 'em up. I mean, you just got to be creative and how you contact people. I mean, a lot of it. Look, and without revealing too much of like how we do our shit, because I don't want to break the aura of Dead Dialect being bad motherfuckers. A lot of it is faking it till you make it. It really
Sure.
is approaching these people as if you know what you're doing, and I think we know what we're doing. But if you look at a track record, now maybe it looks like we do, but at a certain point it didn't. You know, when we're asking cats like a Silver Sun Pickups, they don't have a reason to be on the show. Like, it's not like we've had buzz bands on or big bands, so it just came down to the interaction that you have with them. And that's a huge part of it. Some people are like, how'd you get TJ Miller on? We fucking asked. Like, I knew a guy who knew him, and I asked him, and he asked him, because he knows that, and we had that guy on before, and that guy knew we were the shit. So that guy knows, they're the shit. So when I asked TJ Miller, I'm going to tell him he's a shit. And it's just that easy. Like,
sure.
I think we have a little more competition if we're going for comics.
Really? You'd say that?
There's people go on other shows
Here?
Yeah.
Who?
I mean,
No.
yeah,
No.
Whiskey Brothers or Relationship.
Yeah,
I'll
but I mean,
get a
even
lot of them.
even
And
then-
a lot of times that's piped to them.
But they've
because-
doubled up. A lot of the comics that Relationship time we've had on too. When they had Mike
yeah.
Kaplan on, we had Mike on. Totally different episodes. They're talking about polyamory the whole time, and we're talking about comedy and Star Wars. Like, it was just
Yeah,
sure.
and your conversation would have been totally different too.
Yeah, we were on Relationship, and I mean,
There you go.
It was. I'm very tame for that show. I felt very out of my league when I was on that show.
It's funny he says that when we listen back to it. I thought that he shined bright as a motherfucker,
Aw,
and I looked bad.
that's so
but,
cute. What a good friend.
Yeah.
No, and no hate on Relationship. I'm a stan. I love their show, but I just maybe I'm making excuses. Maybe you're shining a light on that right now. Maybe we just need to reach out more.
I think you need to reach out more. I do. I think you do. I think a lot of it is counting yourself out and thinking like, maybe I'm not ready to have a conversation with this person. But like with the TJ Miller one, like that was just me being like, we should ask if he can be on. And then we was like, hey, he's down. We're like, we gotta be ready. Like, okay, we're good enough to do this. And then it was really fucking easy. Like
A lot of that shit
you'd
was
find
last
that
minute,
once
right?
you're there and you're in the midst, you're just doing your job. You guys
Especially
are
when
used
it's
to
like
it.
a festival or something like that, because when we walk into like music festivals, we never know who we're gonna talk to.
Never.
Oftentimes,
it's a lot of tapping on shoulders.
Yeah, and then so we've like Brian Chippendale from Lightning Bolt, for example, was a guy we tapped on the shoulder or we tweeted him or some
Tweeted
shit.
him. Tweet.
And
Not
15
even
minutes
a DM.
later, I get a text from him like, dude, we're podcasting with this guy. I'm like, fuck.
Make it
like,
go to the second floor. And
Love Lightning Bolt, by
Yeah.
the way. That's fucking awesome.
the guy was amazing. He wanted to keep going. I had to cut him off.
He's such
Right.
a creative, just weirdo.
You guys,
I love it.
Dude, yeah.
You guys are good enough to do it, like to hold these conversations down in a totally different manner than anybody else does. Because again, it would be totally different than what we would doing. If you guys had podcasted with TJ Miller that night, he probably wouldn't have had the whistle out. Like he wouldn't have done the weird shit.
Sure.
Who knows? And a lot of it just comes down to I mean, I've talked to you about this before, just about the comedy scene in general. How Houston's popping off right now, and it's a very there's an opportunity to break into the comedy scene, but you want to be ready to do it because it's clearly popping off.
Sure.
It's one of those things like fake it till you make it. The minute I thought like I think we could probably talk to this over some pickups was the minute that I tried to hit him up, and then it worked out.
I think a lot of people are probably bored waiting to do their show, musician or comedian or otherwise.
True.
So.
Absolutely.
You'd be surprised when people are just in town and they want shit to do.
Yeah.
Like a lot of those cats are like, we don't have anything to do till like 8, and I'd love to spend 30 minutes talking about myself.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
And then it's if you're like, I'll go to your green room, you can just they don't even have to move. It's hilarious.
Because like being on tour can be a very boring experience.
Hell yeah.
Like,
Hell yeah. Have you ever been on tour?
I've done a small tour, so I guess it's been 2 years, almost 2 years now. My band, so I play in a punk rock band called Chemo for Emo.
We were gonna bring it up. Trust me.
Sorry,
we were.
Heard of it?
No, we can move on to that now. But I swear to God, I was not going to just graze past it.
We were.
You're good.
It was a tour of just like some parts of Texas. So we did like Austin, San Antonio, Rio Grande Valley, and Corpus Christi. And like the day that we were in Corpus Christi, I mean, we had like 8 hours to kill. Of course, there's the beach there, so we were able to spend like a couple hours on the beach. But like,
Was it totally empty, by the way? During the day?
it was pretty empty, honestly.
It's weird, right?
Yeah,
Like,
and it's like
where's
summertime
everybody?
too.
Yeah.
It's really weird. But like I remember we spent like 2 or 3 hours at the beach, and then we're just like, I'm beached out. I need something else to do. Like,
Yeah.
and then it's like, oh, we don't have to be at the venue for another 4 hours, 5 hours.
Yeah.
It's
Be handy to have
You
that.
need something to do.
that was a week tour
Yeah.
though. So I mean, like I imagine if it's like a 3-4 month tour.
Dude, I
like,
get bored on road
I don't
trips.
know if I'd be able to handle
Yeah.
it. Honestly,
Julian,
like
can you kill my anxiety and tell me that these cameras are recording?
Where go?
All right. That's how it is, y'all. We don't have a camera operator, so we're the camera operators. And I just like the end of your sentence, my heart started racing like a motherfucker. I thought like, this is it. We're gonna have to start over.
Lost it.
We've
lost
done
all.
it.
Everything's.
I
going
saw
to
you
hell.
guys about a year and a half ago at Avant-Garde, and it was the first time I'd seen you actually, and I don't know why it was the first time I'd seen y'all.
Oh, yeah?
And I think it was one of Gabe's. It was one of the Goddammits.
oh yeah.
Yeah.
We've done that before.
And I was like, holy shit. Like, first of all, a little context, like I grew up pop punk like 101. Like that was my shit. Like just any version of like punk rock, like whether it's hardcore, pop, I mean, it doesn't matter. But pop punk was always like where my heart was, because I was a
Yeah.
little 90s baby and fucking,
right, we're on the same age, so
Right.
I mean, like I'm
you know
with
exactly
you.
what I'm talking
Like,
about. Yeah. So whenever I see pop punk bands that like still exist, because I've been the person that's been saying I think pop punk's making like a resurgence
Oh,
right
it is
now.
for sure.
It's in it for 5 years. It's never been true.
Well, no, it's more true now than it's been because
No, it is. Yeah.
because like because I guess 3-4 years ago, I just remember like having that feeling of like no one cares anymore. Like I felt like we were as good as we've ever been, and like no one gave a shit. And then like 2 years ago, when the album came out, it's like, oh, like that was timed very well, because like now people care about us again. It was so
Yeah,
weird. Like we didn't change. Like they just came back to us.
I wonder what that is. You think it's just people getting older? Like
Yeah,
we're just
I mean, we're a generation. We're late 20s, early 30s people,
but a lot of it was me going back, like being like,
Yeah.
I wonder if Blink-182 is still good. And then I like looked them up, and they were still fucking amazing. And I
Shit
was
is
like,
cyclical, man, in general, right?
Yeah.
Like 90s stuff is
Yeah,
coming
dude.
back. Like stuff that
clothes.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
stuff that was happening when I was a teenage. Like
Yeah.
it makes me feel old. That's what you're talking. Like I remember my dad talking about that, because in the 90s, 70s shit was coming back, and he was like, "Oh man, girls are wearing bell bottoms again." Like,
And some people like myself missed out on a lot of it. Grew up like I was like classic metal,
That's a
old
good
like
point.
now I'm recognizing like all these bands. Like we went to the secret groups emo.
Went to the like pop punk / emo night. Yeah.
Man, like there's so many songs that I forgot about since high school, and I was like, God, this shit is good. This shit is fucking good. Like, why did I hate on it so much? And I don't know.
so drunk.
Well, I think
Yeah.
I mean back in the day, like especially when you're younger,
was bad.
You tie so much of your own like personality like with the music
Yeah,
you like,
yeah.
which is kind of kind of cool, but also kind of weird. And so like I think you tend to reject stuff like much harder back then.
The struggle
because
for
of that.
identity is a
Like,
lot harder and a lot more like you're a lot focused
It's
on
tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, the struggle for identity, that phrase right there perfectly, I
Yeah.
think, encapsulates, because you really have to, at least at my middle school, you had to like, you're either this guy or
You're a
this guy.
jock
There was
or
like
you're-
Right.
two.
Yeah.
And that was it.
But the minute
Like,
it doesn't matter, you can be all those things at once, and then that's why pop punk's making a resurgence. It's like no one's trying to be pop punk anymore.
Yeah,
like
it's just
everyone's just
music.
like, oh, we dig that.
Yeah.
So when I saw you guys, I was like, oh shit, dude, they fucking jam. Like this is fucking
Yeah.
sick as fuck. You said you guys are going to break though.
Oh no! Well, we are writing the next album. So basically, what's kind of happened is we're taking a break from live shows right now.
Right.
But the band is not. I mean,
That's
we're
smart.
We're actually about as busy as we've been in a long time.
Cool.
actually.
Okay.
So,
Okay. Good.
Like we're kind of signed with this like small management group / label. Can't really announce anything yet, so to
Sure.
speak. Anyway, but like we're working with this guy. I mean, like we're getting together every week. Like we have about 16, 17 songs written, and right now we're going through the process of like which 11, 12 are going to make it on the album. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So
how long has the band been around though?
Well, so the band first got together, I mean, 2003. I mean, like a long time ago.
Fuck.
I mean, I joined it in
15 years?
Yeah, I mean, it started when the singer Larry and Brian, the bass player, when they were in high school, and they're a couple years older than me. So, I mean, I think I came into the fold in like 2005, 2006.
Whoa, dude.
But I've actually quit the band twice. So, like, the band had a couple like 3-4 year breaks.
Why'd you quit?
I mean, the first time I quit, I was like 21, 22. And I think the first time was we had released our first album back in 2006. And, like, I guess I had pinned all my like hopes and dreams on this thing like being like the next big thing, but that was right when like pop punk was kind of like really on the way out, and so when it released to crickets. I mean, and it just broke my heart like to the point where it's just like what am I doing with my life? Like I killed myself.
If this didn't work,
I was cutting class for this. Like I wasn't studying for exams for this. Like I remember just having that moment of like I basically just like hemorrhaged all my parents' money for college for nothing, and so I just quit. I was just so like upset with myself, like
shit.
But I mean,
so how long did it take you to come back?
2 or 3 years.
So quite a bit.
I mean, it was a couple of years for sure.
I remember. I think I was with you the night that they had talked to you. They were just like, hey man, like we're thinking about getting the band back. It's like a fucking movie, you know what I mean? Like for real, like these guys they miss each other.
Yeah.
Jake played in a couple different bands, and I just don't. I've seen every band I think that he's ever been in, and that Chemo for Emo, he looks the happiest. He looks. Man, that's my friend having fun.
Yeah.
It's so important to have creative projects with your friends, man. Like whether it's Chemo for Emo or what you guys are doing together. I think it is like kind of what the fuck we live for is like to create, and if not just to create on your own, but to create with like the people you really click and vibe with.
For sure.
You know, so I think that's what works so well for things like like your band or like your podcast, like our podcast. Is it's not hard to see that like these people are friends, like they enjoy each other.
Sometimes you get tired of each other, but you need to like to separate or whatever. But I think that's also
I like how you threw that in there. That's really
no, just
sometimes you get tired of each other. I don't like.
I'll just mean
no. I mean it happens. I mean.
Because you were away.
No, I just mean
that's part of like the chronology of the band.
Sure.
Nothing about you, Brandon. No, I don't get tired of you at all.
Because I've quit the band. Like I said, I've quit it twice. So like
this is where we air out our
there tends to be
issues.
some,
I don't talk to him otherwise.
Yeah.
He gets home. I'm like,
nope, we haven't talked. So before y'all got here, we didn't say a fucking word to each other. We won't say another word until the next.
Just
podcast.
give him a soft one of those.
But no, I was just referring to like how you let the band, like it's part of the chronology of the band,
right.
like how it all grew together.
It's like any relationship, right?
And they were unable to replace me too, so I don't know what that says about me or them, but
it wouldn't work otherwise.
Yeah, like I think at one point they did have a guy that was in the band briefly, but he was like Mr. Shred metal guy, and so he was
Rake,
like
right? They had Rake. They
like
praised him with Rake, Jaws. No one likes that. I tried, guys. Sorry. Just moving on.
Your replacement. So he was going too hard. Is that what you're
right? Like he was doing these like Dave Mustaine like shredding over like pop punk, and it's just like this doesn't work.
Yeah. You're good, man. Everybody, no.
Just tapping.
Yeah, just
math rock.
I think he was literally doing that. So.
Yeah, it's like if Les Claypool joined the band.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh man.
It just doesn't.
He played bass.
So when did you get into comedy? Like when did you start doing stand-up?
Because there's that too. Yeah, you guys do totally different things creatively outside this podcast, and that's like kind of the most interesting thing.
Yeah.
So you play music and you're a comic.
Yeah.
Like what the
stand up about a year.
A year, really?
Yeah.
It's been longer than that.
No, I started. I mean, I was dabbling for a couple months before the.
But wasn't I on the show like a year ago, and you were already doing it then?
I don't know.
I think you were telling me that you were like open mic.
I was
trying to do it.
I would go to open mics and watch, and like you guys have had Koo Agenti on, right?
Yeah, we had Koo on.
Dude, Koo is forever my friend for this shit. But he would see me and he'd be like, "Hey, Brad, you going on stage tonight?" And I'd be like, "Nah, I don't think so tonight." And he'd be like, "Pussy." And eventually he was just like, "Hey man, what are you coming out here for?" Yeah. He's like, "You're out here, you're watching this because you want to be on stage." Like, what?
It's so funny that he picked up
go
on
on stage, dude. Koo. There's a lot of people that like to think of themselves as like a big brother figure kind of thing, but I think Koo really is that guy. I have tried to emulate him in that manner of like when I see a new person come into the group, because comics are cold closed off motherfuckers, man.
Yeah.
So if I see somebody new and they're trying, I always say hi to people, and that's really helped me build a network of like a lot of people told me they were like, I thought you had been in the game for a lot longer, like, and then they see me bomb and they're like, oh no, you suck too. Like, yeah, no, I do.
It's a pretty isolating scene to put yourself in, though.
Man,
Absolutely.
It really teaches you a lot about believing in yourself, but in self-reliance, and but also
being self-aware, right?
jealousy. It teaches you about the jealousy of other people and how to work through that. And
Because a lot of comics are. It's a very as much as they'd like to be friends, they're also pretty competitive.
Yeah.
With each
Oh
other.
yeah. for
what we
sure.
were talking about with the podcast game is like some people think that if someone else starts a podcast, then it's watering down everything.
And
It's
that's what
like,
I brought up. I was like, I've never felt any sense of competition with you guys or any other
Right.
podcast that's ever existed, because for me, it like comedy, they're just different brands of the same art. Like
Sure.
they're never going to be the same. Like what I have to say and what you have to say and the music that I have to play and you have to play, like they're never going to be the same.
Right. I mean, and I listen to. I mean, I don't know how many podcasts y'all listen to, but I listen to a lot. So like,
I don't listen to any anymore. Dude.
Yeah, I
Oh,
don't listen
really?
to me. I mean, I'll
Ever
some
since we started
highlights.
fucking making them,
Yeah.
I do highlights. Like I swear to God, ever since we started doing them, I listened to like 2. It sucks. I know it's
And they're
fucked
mostly,
up.
yeah, there's mostly comedy podcasts. Like,
Gotcha.
I'll still do Joe Rogan's, Your Mom's House.
Right.
Kill Tony's a new one that because we both saw.
Kill Tony's great.
Yeah.
I love Kill
But
Tony.
I can't do those 3-hour joints, man. I can't listen to a whole Joe Rogan unless I,
used to be
just
able
really
to.
got some time.
Yeah, I used to
Yeah.
be able to. I can't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends on the guest. If it's a guest I really love, then I'll listen to the
Right.
whole
Me
thing.
too.
But even then, I'll listen to the sections. Like I'll have to
Yeah.
like
Right.
watch an hour and then watch an hour the next day. And
We
shit.
had Mel Gibson on the other day, and I was just not fucking caring at all. That was
What would he talk about?
stem
stem
cells.
cells apparently.
He literally
for 3
came.
hours.
He came on only to talk about stem cells, and I have a feeling that Joe was probably advised to not bring anything else up, because at any point he didn't even try. At no point did he try to transit like, oh, so stem cells. You know, it's pretty interesting because you're also and he never,
bigot.
Yeah.
never, an anti-Semite. Yeah, no, he never brought any. It was just they stayed on stem cells the whole time, and I was like, this is boring. Like, I don't
Yeah.
want to watch this fucking. Freak
It's like a commercial.
talk about.
maybe
Like,
that's
even
what
if I
it
want to
is.
know about stem cells, I
think
don't know if
he
I want to
asked-
listen to Mel Gibson talk about it.
He
Like,
asked.
what-
He asked to come on. He was like, "Can I come on
About
with my
stem
doctor
cells.
and talk?" He was with his doctor.
Oh,
Yeah, he was
okay.
with his doctor.
But I mean, you might know now, but I didn't realize. And part of my job is that we do parties and presentations and stuff, and so sometimes I'll
your job?
I'll be in the audience. Yeah,
Just the party guy.
Part of my job is parties. That's what you just said.
setting up for them.
Okay.
They don't invite me, right? I just set up the speakers.
Are
and the-
you
and the
Van
lights
Wilder?
and-
Like, what's
yeah,
going
like a
on?
guest for hire.
Yeah. Anyway, I've unfortunately been privy to like some stem cell presentations where
Really?
they're doing it in Mexico now because the U.S.
Right.
won't approve it. But
Look, I'm all down for it, but I didn't want to hear Mel Gibson talk about it for an hour.
Well, I wouldn't want to hear anyone talk about it for more than maybe 10 minutes.
Right.
It's like,
No.
you can encapsulate it very quickly.
Mel Gibson, someone who has like a pretty like.
Yeah, no, I have way more questions. I want to ask Mel
Right.
Gibson.
Yeah, I
None
don't
of
want to
them
talk
are-
to
none
you
of them
about
are
this,
stem
Mel.
cells.
I don't want to talk to you about this, Mel. I want to talk to you about sugar tits. Let's talk about sugar tits.
Dude, tell me what
yeah.
it was
Remember
like.
that?
Sugar tits.
Remember that?
You just shut down the podcast right there.
I was going to say, what's it like to drive that car in Mad Max? But sugar tits,
Yeah.
too.
No, I want to know more about his anti-Semitism.
I like his one movie, Apocalypto. I can
That's
never
a
get
fantastic
It's a great
movie.
I never saw
He's a good
Apocalypse.
filmmaker. I mean,
He's great. Yeah, he's great.
Yeah.
Passion of the Christ. It's insanely powerful.
Yeah, but I've heard.
Yeah.
I never watched it.
It's so.
You never watched Passion of the
Passion
Christ?
You need to get
Is
it together.
that sacrilegious?
What kind of Christian are you?
I mean,
That is a very apocalyptic. Look, the dude can make a movie. Didn't he just make a new movie? Hacksaw Ridge. He made that one.
he made
Yep,
what
he
was
did.
he?
Yeah.
Didn't he have one called The Mexican or something like that, where he was in or
He didn't direct it.
Get the Gringo?
Get the Gringo, the Mexican.
Good movie.
It was in Mexico though.
Was that him? I thought that was Tom Cruise.
It was.
No,
him.
that was him.
Get the Gringo was
But
him.
Get the
Tom-
Gringo. Yeah, okay.
There
But
might
he didn't-
also
he didn't-
there
he
might
didn't
also
make
be a movie called The Mexican that he directed. Maybe we're.
that. That sounds about
Shit.
right.
I mean,
Did this just become the Mel Gibson podcast?
this might sound terrible, but like because of all the things that have been coming out in Hollywood, it's like is Mel Gibson like much more like acceptable now?
No.
because he's like not touching people.
no, because
Like-
even then, I mean, you remember it wasn't just the sugar tits thing. It was the whole. He was married to Oksana Grigoria. Remember that the model, and he was like really abusive.
Oh, that's
towards
right.
Her.
Okay,
Yeah, so it
yeah,
wasn't
I
just
forgot-
that.
I forgot about
Yeah,
that.
He
You're
was
right.
a
No, you're right.
super misogynist piece of shit as well. So no, he's actually.
Are you talking about the I gotta get blow me and smile
Is that what he said?
tape conversation?
Yeah, and saying like
There-
you're gonna get raped by a
Oh, yeah.
and saying like the N word
Yeah.
and shit. He was this guy's a
Whoa.
piece of
Yeah,
shit.
If you listen to Patrice O'Neill dissect that tape on Opie and Anthony, it's one of the
Patrice.
funniest fucking things I've ever heard in my life.
I believe it.
He was
dude.
like, "This is a man." I don't know. It changed my opinion on the subject. Is all I'm saying.
That's hilarious.
I still think Mel Gibson's a piece of shit.
It definitely bums
listen
me
to
out because like he's like the only Christian filmmaker I know that's not like making God's Not Dead and stuff. You know, like the overtly like hokey Christian stuff. So
Yeah.
it's like, come on, like.
But they're all still kind of grounded in like Americanism, like patriotism / Christianity,
No, absolutely,
like everything. I mean, even Apocalypto is like at its core about like pre-America, like South America, America, like it's colonialism, like it's. I don't know. It's always a part of the process, and that's what grosses me out about him. I'm like, ew, white man with your fucking mustache.
But he's an immigrant, though. Does that count for anything?
Mel Gibson?
Yeah.
Is he an immigrant? From where?
He's Australian.
Is he from Australia? Yep. I don't care.
He
that doesn't count.
Lost his accent.
He's still a white guy.
Is that why he was in Mad Max?
Yeah.
I guess so, yeah.
That broke him, and then Lethal Weapon, I think, was the next really big.
So did he have an accent at some point?
Yeah. Lethal Weapon, you can still kind of hear it. They're all on Netflix right now, and they're fucking terrible in the best way. Like,
I've never seen any of them.
watch 1 and 2.
I mean,
worth it, but
oh yeah, I remember watching Lethal Weapon and like Rush Hour back to back, but Rush Hour is clearly the better of the two.
Rush Hour?
Rush Hour.
Rush Hour, it's so funny you brought that up. I was like, you ever go in those, like, man, I have this really bad tendency of like finding out a subject and just wanting to learn everything about it for that day.
Yeah.
And
No, I do
like
the same thing.
last week was Rush Hour. This week is Titanic. Not the movie, but the movie
The
too.
real thing?
But the everything.
I was
Every
obsessed-
fucking.
I do the
I was
same thing.
obsessed
I
with
do
it
the
as a
same
kid.
thing. Yeah.
Holy shit, y'all! I know so
We were
much.
just going off about
Titanic.
it. Yeah, he's now supercharged with it. Like, if y'all want to know anything about Titanic right now, now's the time to ask.
Got you. I got you. And in fact, I'll say it right now. One thing we found out recently, and this is the most interesting thing I've learned about the Titanic, was that there was probably some structural damage to the hull due to a fire, like that was going
Before
on
they
like
set sail.
before they set sail. That was like happening in the boiler room like 3 weeks up until they left. So it specifically weakened the part that the iceberg eventually hit.
Interesting.
Yeah, so we're now finding this out that White Star was like, just go ahead and send the boat out. Like, it's cool. Like, we've already pushed it back.
Well, they would have lost. They would have lost a lot
if-
of money. They would have fucked up their press.
If you're a Titanic,
and there's no
expert,
internet,
then,
so
pop quiz: what American industrialist was supposed to be on the Titanic but didn't?
Ooh, was it? I'm gonna say the Rockefeller.
John Hershey, the Hershey chocolate.
Okay, we did not. I wasn't. Yeah.
Or I think his first name is John, but yeah, the Hershey chocolate guy was supposed to be on the boat.
Yeah, that's you got me there. Are you saying that because you're a Titanic buff?
I like to know random, like just
Because you came at
bits of
that
history,
okay.
Yeah,
As soon as you found out, like, oh, he knows shit about Titanic. Let's see.
Let's see,
Because
bitch, what you got?
because I was thinking about like I actually heard that from another podcast. So
Oh, cheater. Well, there's all kinds of cool shit, man. I mean, to me, the most interesting part was that that was like the biggest man-made object that at that point that it existed. So everybody wanted to be on it. All the rich people, fucking J.P. Morgan, like, John Jacob Astor, these are millionaires. And if they're, like, for instance, John Jacob Astor, if his net worth were adjusted to today, that dude would be worth like $80 billion. Like, it's a fucking insane amount of money. And this guy died on that boat. Like, he's one of the most powerful rich people in the world and died. That, to me, is, like, super interesting.
Yeah.
That there was, like, 5 to 10 of the richest people in the world that just died. They just died that night because they just wanted to live it up. They're like, let's go on this fucking luxury liner.
Crazy.
And shit went down.
I just can't imagine that big of a ship.
That's what I'm saying. Like, can you imagine that thing like in the black void just tumbling
and
to its
because
depth
it was
forever,
so big,
its
it
grave?
took forever for it to go down. So I think there's like a 3-4 hour period where it's like it's sinking.
It was 2.5 hours is
Okay.
is what it took to sink.
Yeah.
2.5 hours, which is actually pretty fast. Like, it seems like it's long, but in terms of a ship that big, that thing should have floated for days.
Have you guys ever seen that YouTube video of it sinking? It's like a 2 hour,
Yeah,
2.5
it's a live-
hour.
it's a live-
It's a live.
yeah.
Like it has a model of the ship, and the video is like 2.5 hours long. It's the length it
Yeah.
takes for it to sink.
Yeah,
You
they
should
do
check
it. They
out.
do
It's
it
cool.
to the.
And it walks you through the notes. It walks you through like, well, okay, at this point the compartment's filled up. It's like
They
weighing down
called
the
for an
ship.
SOS.
Yeah,
This is
called
when
it-
they
yeah,
sent the
it's crazy.
flares
It's pretty
out.
cool.
Lights went out here. Yeah, man. I don't know, man.
It's just the most lonely, desolate thing I can ever picture is that ship going down to that dark void.
And there's no
And
lights.
just-
If you watch that
yeah,
movie,
it's
it's
pitch black.
It's bright. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
lights out there. It was not that fucking. No, it was pitch black. They're in the middle of the Atlantic. No,
Can you imagine being Jack and like Rose, whatever, like in a real time situation? Of course, they weren't real, but imagine they're on the top of the ship, right, and it's going down. You can't see anything. You don't never know when the water's coming at you because it's so fucking dark. It's
I like how in the
Yeah.
movie they had the wherewithal to like at this serious moment where it's sinking, they have the guy like fall and like hit the propeller
Oh yeah,
Bong.
I love that
It's
part.
It
Spins
just
around.
spins off. Like,
yeah, it's super gnarly.
the best use of
like
CGI
video
ever.
game ragdoll physics. Like, why do they do that?
I actually looked up that scene. Like, I was like, I'm gonna see how it looks, and it holds up. Like, the whole sinking of the ship looks really good, dude. Like, I don't know how the fuck. I mean, it's 1997, and it looks as good as if it were to come out today. It looks tremendous.
I didn't actually watch that movie until 2008.
It's a great
maybe.
movie, dude.
Like when it came out, I remember I definitely didn't go see it in theaters, and it came out on double VHS because it was so long.
Yeah,
had it,
I
yeah.
remember that. It was blue, and I remember.
Yeah.
Me and my buddy rented it. We fast forwarded through the entire first tape, and then partially into the second tape, watched Kate Winslet's titties, and then went to sleep.
That's it. Didn't even watch his ship sink.
No, we didn't watch a single
Damn.
bit.
They were solid.
You know
breasts.
why? You know why? Because of
For
the
sure.
fucking Celine Dion song. I was just like, I fucking hate this
I
movie
love that
already.
song.
It's
love that
not
song.
3 hours
Actually-
of Celine Dion song.
That song never appears. Actually, it never appears. Only the
You
instrumental
love
version.
that song?
I did in
Actually, I was
1997.
obsessed with that song when I was
Me
7
too,
years old.
me
I
too.
was obsessed with that song.
I had the
loved it.
soundtrack.
Me too.
Yes. Yes, I had the fucking soundtrack. It was amazing, dude.
I had a model. Me and my dad built a model.
Oh Jesus! With that oceany little, what kind of ocean flute is that? What we're gonna call it?
Pickle? Is it a pickle?
Little piccolo,
Yeah.
ocean flute.
Ocarina.
Yeah, it's tremendous, dude. And the most fucked up part, well, what I learned was that I would not have died. Like, I'd have made that. I would have made it out that.
What would be your approach?
Dude. Well,
already
okay.
said-
It depends where I'm at. If I'm in third class,
You would be in third class.
You're gonna I'd be third class. I would no, because first of
I'm
all,
getting on a lifeboat. I don't care if I kill
I'm-
everybody on
if
that
I'm-
lifeboat. I'm getting on a lifeboat.
if I'm me, I'm in Europe, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm in Europe. I'm right. All right.
Right,
So
okay.
I'm a white European guy. I'm probably
Had more access.
maybe a little bit more. I don't know
Alright.
how that worked back then. I'm just going to assume that there's a level of privilege that will at least bring me up to second class. Second class, just a little bit.
Okay.
Are you doubting me?
I think you would be Fabrizio.
You think for sure I'm Fabrizio, the Italian. All right, I guess that makes sense. I'm an Italian, so I'm getting crushed by the
fucking-
giant smokestack
Yeah, yeah.
at the end. Another fun fact, that fourth smokestack was fake. It was only there for aesthetics. It had no smoke coming out of it at all. It was only there.
Oh, really? In the actual ship?
The actual ship,
Oh.
it was completely fake.
Because 3 looked shitty?
Yeah.
Well, because most of them had 3 at that time.
They wanted
I guess.
4. They wanted to look pretty. That was it. Three
Okay.
just looked empty. But if you look,
It wasn't even a backup.
It wasn't.
just a
No, it was
tube.
fake. It was just not even connected to anything.
Could have put lifeboats in there. You should have done that.
It's crazy, dude. We can stop talking about the Titanic. That's literally all. Like I said, 48 hours. I've just been watching you drain the Titanic, dude. The Discovery documentary. They drained it. Not really. They didn't really drain it, but now they mapped the whole floor and they see where it's like 13 miles apart from each other. And now they think it broke up past the surface, not on the surface, and all kinds of crazy shit and revelations, man, that they're finding out.
I'm with you, man. I do the same crap on tons of subjects. It's just like this 2-3 day deep dive where I only read about.
What
So
was
give
it
me give me a subject that you know way too much about and you shouldn't.
Oh God, it's been a while since I went through a weird phase where I was like studying a lot of cults. So
Ooh,
like
yeah.
like
I do
the,
love
like
a
the
good
Branch
cult.
Davidians in Waco. Like
Yes,
I had a
yes.
weird phase where I like read. I watched like 3 or 4 documentaries about
I
it.
did that
and, like,
too.
read-
Yeah.
And then I just listened to the fantastic Heaven's Gate podcast. It was produced by Stitcher. It's highly recommended.
Is it about just them? Like it's
Them
about,
and then like their families, like they go and like they interview like people that left, that or people that like survived. They're,
stuck
like,
around.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's the creepiest part to me is that they kept a couple to stay around
Yeah.
to like maintain the website and like the
They
doctrine.
talked to the
and-
guy whose idea it was to castrate all of them.
I did not know that they castrated.
Wait,
Yeah.
I didn't know they were castrated.
They believe that
All the men?
that's it was half men, half women in the group, and they believe that sex was like preventing you from reaching God. So you could
How does
have
that make
no
sense?
sex.
That's like you get close to God when you're in sex, right?
So,
I don't
like,
see how that makes
opposite.
sense.
so. And so it was one of the followers that was like, "We should just cut our balls off, man."
Whoa.
Hey, bro, I got an idea.
And
That's a hard
one
sell.
of the Heaven's Gate members ended up
Jesus.
getting like a job where they worked with like a person with a doctor that did that
That
like
could do it?
that could do it and was stealing tools so then they could do it on their own.
Whoa.
Wow.
And they did.
Have you watched the videos like of the cult
The
initiation?
Of the homemade
I
castration?
watched the exit video where it's like a 3-hour thing where they interview each person the day before they kill themselves.
fucking crazy.
Yeah.
What?
Dude, yeah,
Yes.
it's crazy. And
Yeah.
all of it's on YouTube. It's all there.
Wait, what cult is this again?
This is the Heaven's Gate.
Heaven's Gate.
These are the ones that...
Which
They're making a movie,
the
right?
leader
Yes, they are.
was once a professor at University of St. Thomas down the road.
Yes, he
Oh,
was.
no
yes.
shit.
Yes, he was. He was a very educated guy.
I know a guy who went to St. Thomas. That guy's a complete psychopath.
Beautiful singer, actually, as you go on to find out.
A lot of those cult singers are, man. They're like they're cult leaders. They're like remarkable musicians. Charles
Yeah.
Manson, fantastic musician.
David Koresh could fucking shred.
What?
No, I'm not even. I'm not even. Not
Give him,
even
this,
joking.
give him a second.
Hold
Give
on,
him some
I
props.
want a shirt that says that.
David
Koresh could fucking shred. That's amazing.
People will be like, you know what, man? All right, I
Also
got you.
born in Houston. Another connection
Wow.
there. Yeah.
So there we go. That's exactly that was the answer to that question I was looking for. Was what do you know way too much about?
Cults.
David Koresh can shred, bro. Never guessed that.
There's a video on YouTube of him he's good.
Just
Yeah.
got a flying V. Just
He has an album called Songs for Grandpa.
oh no,
Damn.
Songs for Grandpa.
that's so creepy.
That is creepy.
Ooh.
It's also available on YouTube.
Sounds like it's
so-
actually Weezer's new album, Songs for Grandpa.
That is
Yeah, fucking. I need to get more into cults. Like the only ones I really know about are the ones.
Okay.
I mean, what?
I'm seeing a difference.
interesting.
difference in personality though is like they are interested in the people who are involved in the cults. I feel like I'm always interested in the cult leader. Like I'm more mystified by the charisma of like
Right,
how could
somebody
you
you
like Jim
sway.
Jones? Yeah, more than I am
Yeah.
like the people that were involved. Because anyone who's involved, I'm always imagining that I would never be dumb enough to get involved in that.
Yeah.
Although. Probably so. All they would have to do is be like, "Hey, man, you can have a pickle and a Pop-Tart every night."
probably not now.
That
but,
sounds pretty good.
But if they reach you at
just
when-
food and Netflix,
Yeah.
and be like, all right.
I mean, the whole thing is
Pickle
if they
and a
reach
pop.
you at your lowest point in your life, that's when they get you.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
it's like right now, you'd be able to go, "Yeah, you're
They
full
give you
of
an
shit.
yeah
Get
when,
outta
when
here."
Yeah,
you're,
but then
when
how
you're
do they-
vulnerable to an answer, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
But then
Like,
how do they
give you an
get
answer.
like how does Scientology get like actors and shit when they're like millionaires and they somehow manage to dangle some kind of carrot that sounds
well,
good?
you know what? They gain power
Yeah, that's what I'm saying,
through
yeah.
through intimidation or through
Well-
money. Like they actively court stars. And they actively try to help people who want to become stars
Right.
because they're trying to grow their religion. They seek out young people. What's her name? Layla
But they
Rahimi.
also-
She was a
Leah
Scientologist
Remini.
her whole life.
But they also make them feel like they're doing like public service.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
you're
and they'll
talking
also go
about your
after,
church. Just
I-
like there's Christian actors,
Yeah.
they make them
weird.
feel like it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Like I don't know his actual name, but he used to be an actor back in the '90s. He was on Salute Your Shorts. His name was like his character was called Donkey Lips or whatever. He did an interview. I mean, he's like D-list actor.
No
but,
idea.
But
Okay,
basically, like the
D-list,
Church of
yeah.
Scientology
You don't
went up to
remember
him
Donkey
and they were
Lips?
like, "We can save your career because we have connections, so you should join our church." So that's another like
Okay.
avenue that they do
Ah.
is like you can get your acting career back if you are start
And
taking
they
classes.
probably do help the shit.
and,
out
and
of
I'm
you.
sure it probably does help them. Like,
But
you know?
and then you start taking some courses and they start learning your secrets and then you're in deep and then you can't get out.
Could probably
It's
start a cult, right? Like if
sure we
if I
could.
tried hard enough, like if I really
I think that's
spent
my ultimate goal.
about a year just planning.
Not all cults have to be bad.
I would be a
right?
cool
We could-
cult. Yeah,
we
I'd
could
be a
cool
cool
cult.
cult.
Yeah, it'd be a cool cult.
Yeah, we'll like
Play hot Cheetos and
hook
video
it
games,
up
man.
and shit. I mean, we'd have to have there'd definitely have to be some fucked up aspects in order for it to work.
Just gonna
They've
marry
got-
everybody's wife, something like that.
There
right?
has to be a level of control that you assert.
Yep.
You can't just be like, everybody have a great time.
And there has to be like a belief structure too. That's weird.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Dude, I mean, have you ever actually sat down and read like the Scientology like beliefs about like
I mean, I saw the South Park episode, but that's about it.
that's accurate.
Yeah.
I mean they didn't and they even said it as a disclaimer at the bottom like this is true.
Yeah,
Like we're
right.
not just so y'all know we're not South Parking out right now.
Like
Like
75 million year old like dictator named Xenu ruling like a fucking galaxy, getting all these people thrown
But
in a
he-
volcano.
He drew. He had planes that resembled like a what is it like some bomber from World War I
Yeah.
or something like specifically.
like apparently 75 million years ago, like life looked exactly like it did in the 60s, and
and they threw hydrogen bombs inside of a volcano.
yeah,
and
and they released souls that attach
all
to your body,
attached
and that's
to-
why you know about religion. He made these souls watch a
they're
cinema for
called
37 days.
thetans.
It's
They're thetans.
the craziest shit ever. Like,
It's
crazy.
obviously written by a science fiction novelist.
which is what
Which
he
is
was.
what it was. Yeah.
I love that Leah Remini's
Going hard,
right
yeah.
now. Like she's like
Well, with the compelling aspect about that is that like she's doing it, and then like you can see how they're sending like private investigators after her, and they're spies, and it's like really, it's like they're openly like watching her. And,
The
and,
level
you know
of
what I mean?
harassment that
Yeah.
they're willing to commit is amazing to me.
Yeah.
It's blatant.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
Well, but they find loopholes to get away with it.
Well, they've got a lot of power, man.
I mean, they
Cops and shit.
There's people that she interviews who are like, I bought a house, and they had someone buy a house across the street from them to live there and watch. And this person befriended her, was watching her children, like babysitting her kids for like a year and a half.
Wow.
Integrated herself into this person's life. It's fucking insane.
Would you hear about like Cedric from the Mars Volta? Because Cedric and Omar from the Mars Volta were in Scientology for a very long time.
Yeah, I heard that they had joined, and which makes sense because they were kind of went off the deep end for a while. But I don't know.
It's probably
makes sense,
a lot
actually.
of opiates in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I would attribute it to that, and I don't know them, so
if you know their lyrics too, it kind of makes sense. They do look like L. Ron Hubbard novels.
But he married. I believe he probably met her in the church because she was a Scientologist as well. Chris Lee, or what's her name? Chrissy. What's her last name? Fuck. Well, she's Chrissy Bixler now. It's Cedric's wife, and they met in the church. And I'm piecing a lot of the story together. From what I can gather, they left the church after this went down. But what went down was fucking Danny Masterson raped her.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That's that's the person.
I saw this shit
That's the
about-
person she's one of the ones that came out. A lot of them, there's like 5 accusers.
Okay. Oh, wow.
4 of them are from the Church of Scientology. One of them is Chrissy.
I saw that about Danny, but I didn't know that it had any connection with Scientology.
And it's Cedric's fucking wife.
This is like at the peak of when he was Hyde on That 70s Show.
This is about 2001.
So,
So when he's a major celebrity.
Oh, yeah.
He raped her like with the Scientology blessing. Or
They were all in Scientology, and when they, yes, apparently, because when they tried to do something about it, it was hushed. It was like until now, like it's just now,
Right.
like they're just now having an investigation about him, like in the LAPD. Apparently, some of the songs of the news at the drive-in record are like about him and that incident. I just thought that was the craziest fucking thing in the world, man.
So
It's like,
crazy.
holy shit, man! This whole Me Too thing it's so powerful, but it's so great. What a crazy year.
Right.
Yeah.
Man, that was what 2017 was about. Was like these nasty dudes getting outed, which is amazing. But
And
like,
then it turned into
sure.
people like like Louis C.K. was a big one. I was like, oh shit, like holy shit, this is big. This is everybody.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's
Yeah.
in on this shit, man. Like,
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
great.
I think if there's like everyone has at least like one person that maybe they even looked up to that, and it was like, oh,
For
shit,
sure.
like,
Yeah.
like you, damn it, like
yeah.
for sure,
it's terrible. I mean,
It was Louis for me.
Me
yeah, oh
too.
for sure.
It was
like,
Louis for me, man. I loved Louis. I loved his comedy. I loved his show. I thought his show was one of the most well-written, well-edited, by the way. The way that
Yeah.
he edits himself. Like, I don't know if people realize that
Right.
So many different, so versatile, like different
Well, he-
styles. Like
He taught himself to make
Well,
films.
yeah, because
basically.
the only reason why he got the show to begin with was because basically FX gave him like just the most bare bones minimum budget, and he's like, I'll just do it
I
myself.
got it, yeah.
I mean-
so he clearly like was talented and talented enough where I was like, dude, I relate so much to this guy's art, like this guy's show. So when that happened, it made me think like, fuck. I thought I was someone who had already had the conversation with myself on whether I could separate the artist from their art, and it just made me have that conversation all over again. I was like, oh fuck, I don't know if I can this time. Like I don't know that I can ever really listen to his work again. Like I know he's funny, but I also know he's gonna make a comeback, and when that happens, like I'm good. Like I'm good on
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah,
He's
I mean,
one of- oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just say. I mean, I think everyone should have the path to redemption. I just don't know how you set those terms.
Yeah, I think he
it's
definitely-
it's not me. I can't
Sure.
set them for
Definitely going to have to make a better apology.
right,
right.
That's a good point.
Yeah, like the brand new apology, like that. That made me hate the guy. Like
Yeah, fuck that band.
because I liked brand new, and whenever he kind of had his apology, he didn't actually apologize. He just said like, "I'm sorry, you guys feel this way."
Or Kevin Spacey's apology
Yeah.
when he came out of the closet. That was
yeah.
hilarious.
Throwing homophobia under the bus right there.
That was crazy as fuck. I was like, oh shit, he's making it a gay thing? Like,
Yeah.
no. You
That was some
can't-
Frank Underwood
yeah.
shit. That's the ironic thing about
Whereas
it.
a guy like Dan Harmon, I mean, he addressed it, and
Yeah.
all was forgiven, I guess. But he also didn't do anything violent though either. So
That was one for me though. That was a specific one that made me take a look at myself. Like honestly, where I was like, do I? Because what was most important about him, and if no one knows, Dan Harmon got accused of sexual harassment by someone he used to work on with Community with, I believe, and that's kind of what led to him leaving the show. And she accused him, and his response was like kind of fucking really insanely mature and like just well thought out and kind of the perfect way to handle it. I mean, although what he did was
Still fucked up.
gross,
Yeah.
but like still it made me read it, and as a male I was like, the most important aspect of it was the idea of putting women in that dynamic of like they are now romantic to me. Like when you start viewing them as that, in his mind, it didn't matter if she did. And I realized I had done that before. I was like, there's been girls that I liked, and then when I liked them, it didn't matter if they liked me back. And that was our dynamic. Like, that was it. Like, oh, I like them. I like that girl. And, like, that's not fair. That's not fair, because that changes.
Definitely have done that.
Changes
before.
the standards you expect.
We
all
actually
have.
talked about it this week.
Fucking guy in the world can admit to doing that.
Yeah.
And
I
he-
did it and I learned from it, and I think he did the same thing. So
Right.
I could put myself in his shoes, and so you know, I say he should be forgiven. But
No, I agree.
The
It
difference
sounds
is
like he
he
has,
learned that lesson at a different point in his life than I did. I happened to learn
And
it
he did it
during
in
college.
a position of power.
I
too.
wasn't in a
But
position of power.
there's a difference
Right.
between forgiving someone and then letting them back in. So I can say, like, yeah, Dan Harmon, I forgive you. Obviously, this is a case by case thing. With Dan, like, it made me learn. I was like, cool, I'm gonna really try to be introspective about this. With Louis, though, I also reserve the right to be like, no, fuck you for life. I'm good. I don't really want to hear you anymore.
Right, and-
like,
Yeah.
I think that should also be okay. So when everyone says like, oh, but he said sorry, like, yeah, but I'm not okay with it.
I'm
Like,
not saying everyone should be forgiven. I think there's.
I know. I'm just
I think
making the
the passion
distinction.
should be
There's,
available.
there's the Christian concept of repentance.
Redemption, yeah.
Repentance, right? I don't think Louis repented for what he did.
Right.
He was just like, yeah, I'm sorry. He eventually was like, okay, I've been grilled enough that I'm gonna have to admit to this and say I'm sorry. But he didn't. Harmon was like, look, I'm sorry. Here's why, and
But-
I don't place any of the blame on this person.
Well,
I think he did the best thing that you could do.
I'm still going to look at the Louis example and say that he said he was sorry because he got caught. Like,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
No, right? Yeah, and I just ultimately I want it to be okay to not let that person be famous again. And I don't.
That's
I
fine.
I agree with redemption. I agree with forgiveness, but I think those things are mutually exclusive from letting him come back and arrive at where he was anymore. Because if we're gonna let him get 10 Netflix specials again, like,
I don't
what
think
are
he
we?
will.
What are we really? You say that. But then there's cats
Give
like
it-
Woody
give it
Allen.
5 years,
There's still
like-
cats like Woody Allen who directs some of the biggest films in the year.
Woody
And,
Allen, his ship's about to sink too. He's done.
how many decades after shit went
Yeah.
down? And like that's my
Right.
thing is like where are we going to draw the line and we say no, we don't want you anymore. Like we're
Right.
maybe okay, yeah, you're forgiven, but like that we don't want you within this square of art that we like to regard as some of the best art in the world. And to me, Louis was one of the best comics in the world. I don't want to put him in there anymore.
And like people still watch Roman Polanski films. I mean,
Yeah,
that rape happened
because a fucking
30 years
rapist,
ago, 40 years ago.
14-year-old girl. She
So-
was.
Oh yeah, fuck. It's crazy.
That's a real conversation needs to be had. Like, at what point do you
Right.
separate the artist from their art? And obviously, it's a case by case
Of course,
thing.
there's a
Exactly.
line too, because
Sure.
yeah.
I just think the most important aspect is that when someone says, "I'm good on you," to not be guilted at that, because that's what's starting to happen. Is like, well, no, he said sorry. Like, I don't care. Like, I kind of know. I don't really want to.
And then there's also situations like the Aziz Ansari, which also furthers the conversation in itself, because like he's somebody that's a situation where a lot of people, a lot of guys will kind of like rally behind him, like, oh well,
I've been in that scenario before.
I've been in that scenario
Yeah,
before. Like we
sure.
were drunk, we went home, whatever. But then you have to acknowledge that as a guy, or as the way if you look at it from Aziz's perspective, you kind of realize that he knows where he was drawing the line, and if guys are approaching.
I haven't read the full account of that.
So he went on a date and engaged in like sexual activity with a girl that later basically said that she felt like the entire dynamic of the date and the way he was acting kind of pushed her into doing that in the first place. Now the argument is that you didn't leave, you didn't stop, you went through with it, and now years after the fact you're trying to tear his career down. And the converse argument is he's a man in power. You knew him. You went on a date. You knew what he was expecting. You weren't really in a position to just walk away. And I think both of those points are valid. I think they come from a place in the dynamic of which society has told them they need to act.
Right.
Society
obviously-
tells males that they need to be
Yeah.
aggressive in dates. Like, you try to hit on the girl, you try to kiss the girl, you try to fuck the girl.
But
if you're
then
reading
it
the
also makes
situation
you,
right.
Yeah, you had to like. It also forces you to kind of know like what's your limit, like what point can't you pass up. I
Right.
think that itself is a problem. Like you're gonna go only as far as it before you can be considered.
And let's
racist.
clarify. In no way are we saying that coercion of any kind. And I don't know, wasn't there. I don't know if he coerced her at all. I'm just saying that I think that the conversation or the dialogue about what brings us to the point of wanting to go on a date with
Yeah.
someone and thinking like this night's going to end with fucking is what we need to talk about.
Right.
Not
Exactly.
necessarily what happened that evening, because that's between them. And I'm willing to admit that he was wrong. I I just think the most important part is that we start talking about like
the approach.
The approach of like what are women and men expected to do in these scenarios, because we're starting now to clearly draw a line between what is coercion, that he didn't rape anybody. He didn't. And I don't think what he did was malicious. Wasn't it appropriate? Like, fuck yeah. But that's where the line gets really blurred and gray. And these people that want to fall on each line and say, she's a bitch for accusing him and he's an asshole for trying to do this. I think you're both missing the point.
He didn't rape her, but he did come with expectations that maybe he
shouldn't have had. Absolutely. And I agree. But I'm trying to get to the bottom of those expectations. Were they his, and this sounds like I'm sympathizing with him. I'm not. And I don't think anybody should be silenced. I don't. I just think we shouldn't end the story at Aziz Ansari sucks. Yeah. Okay, maybe he does. But let's talk about why this happened and why in society we treat dates as just they're going to lead here or there. It's either am I going to get fucked or not. No. Let's really analyze what makes guys think that that's what they need to be doing and girls think that that's what they... I don't know if that makes any sense, but I just think it's opening up a bigger conversation beyond... was this guy being creepy? Because it's not that easy. It's just not always that easy. Obviously, there's creepy people out there, and Aziz is a little creepy, for sure. But I like that came out and that it's creating a dialogue. Right. I just don't like either side that's hanging on to the extreme end saying, she sucks. Because there's people attacking this woman. Which
isn't right either.
It's fucked up. Yeah. That doesn't make any sense. She should not be silenced. No one should be telling her, you can't complain. I don't know how it is to grow up a woman, man. I have no idea. So I can't even speak from that perspective and say, I've gone on... how many dates has she been on where she's had that exact thing happen? That... Who knows, man? Who knows? It's fucked up.
Isn't it crazy how the internet has brought forth all of this? Even the discussions.
Accountability.
Accountability. But the fact that we're even sitting here talking this is going to go on the internet later. Yep. It's...
And everyone's going to call me a sympathizer.
Well, you are. I think you are too. No,
look, at the end of the day, I love what happened last year. I love 2017 was the year of women
broke
speaking
Hollywood
up.
Wide open.
And even just a week ago, we had the Women's March again, and it was more. I think it was outnumbered than the one the year before.
The one that already broke a record.
That's crazy. Yeah. That shit makes me happy. So, the real big point here is I like the dialogue. I think that men need to be on the team as well. Right. The Me Too team. And it's kind of. We shouldn't draw a line between men and women. Fuck that. If a guy wants to join up and say, me too. The whole James Franco thing was really fucked up too, man. Because he's had a lot of accusations and he won the Me Too bin. And then
that's right. There's pictures too, right, with him sitting. I don't know.
Yeah. What happened with James Franco?
So he's been creepy. He's hit on young girls in the past, and then had some accusations. And then in the Golden Globes won or he wore a Me Too pen. And a lot of actresses were like, what the fuck? You've been accused of this and really haven't even talked about it. And he's since talked about it, and I didn't really like his response at all. I didn't. But clearly there needs to be a dialogue about where we're drawing the line between who we want
what's the solution? Do you sit down and write out a contract before your date about what you're going to do?
Well, it's not only dates, though, because in a lot of these instances, these are men who are in power. For him, he was I think, directing a film. And some of the accusations that he was telling them to take their, patches that they would keep on, their fucking boobs and shit, off for the scene. And that's fucked up. I'm not okay with that, at all. And that shit has to come out. It has to come out because we have to sift, and this is ultimately what this entire conversation is about, is we have to sift through what as a society we're okay with doing and letting happen, and also who we're okay with letting back in. And that's why I bring up Louis. It's I'm not okay with letting that dude back in. Aziz, I think we could talk about it. I think we can at least have a dialogue about what happened.
I don't know. Even him, I think Dan Harmon had the best approach.
I agree.
Aziz, even Aziz was like, "Well, I'm sorry you felt that way." But I don't think that he didn't even acknowledge.
Yeah.
So
what's more important, the what happened or the reaction?
Understanding what you did wrong. I don't think that Aziz or Louis understood what Louis finally did understand what he did wrong, or he understood it long ago, but he didn't.
But he did it so many fucking times.
But well, he didn't repent. That's what I'm saying. Repentance is different than apologizing or
I
feeling
almost don't
bad.
give a shit about repentance. If you do it 10 times and get caught, and you're like, okay, I'll repent. Are we good now? Like it almost
Repenting's not apologizing. Repenting is changing your ways and changing your outlook and changing your attitude. And I don't think he did.
But
that.
how do you
He was still just
see.
like. He was still just like, well, I'm sorry I got caught, or
Yeah.
Can we all at least agree that like what a beautiful time it is for accountability to be through the roof like that? Like
for
to
sure.
be able to just like speak up and say like this shit's
I mean,
fucked up.
Think about how long Hollywood has been around and how it's been since day one. Like
Yeah. I mean,
It's
Judy,
exist-
remember,
like,
you remember Judy Garland?
since the silent film era, even before like 50 years
you're
before
right.
Judy
You're
Garland.
right,
Like it's like, abuse in Hollywood has been around since
Right.
the silent era.
So
Like,
that's the biggest
and we're
thing.
just now like bringing this out.
And here we are,
Yeah.
4 dudes talking about it, and we have no
Yeah.
idea what it's like to live through that
Yeah,
shit.
I totally
Yeah.
get why. But why? By the way, like Elijah Wood, apparently, whenever he was a child actor, his mom was with him 100% of the time because she knew the shit that was happening to like a lot of other
Look at
child
Corey
actors.
Corey Feldman, yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
and so he was like, I'm glad she, like, as a kid, he's like, when I was 13, 14, I was mad my mom was around all the time. He's like, now I'm thankful because I wasn't touched
The
by,
internet,
by
man.
anybody or like, it's like,
Do you guys watch Black Mirror?
I
watched
have not. My fiance
most of the first season, but I haven't watched any of the new. I know
God,
It'll
dude,
make you
get
never
into
want to get on your phone again.
I watched the pig fucker, right?
That's
then,
the first episode.
Then there's the exercise bikes,
Dude,
They get way
the
better.
the one with the camera in the eye.
It gets
solid episode.
dark.
Oh yeah.
And the one with the robot. That was one of my
Sad.
favorite ones. Yeah, very sad.
It's tremendous.
It really is like
Season 3 is where, like, I think probably season 3 is like where it starts, like, oh, it's peaking hard, and the 4th one apparently is amazing. You watched the 4th
Yeah.
one, right?
I don't know,
Yeah.
I've heard a lot of people say that it starts to get predictable in the later seasons.
Ooh, I don't know. I love
Some episodes fall short a little bit.
I know, like season 3, they changed the writers, so that might
I think
be
they
why.
they're now produced by Netflix, I believe.
Yeah.
Like I think they've now switched production.
It's a great idea because every single episode is about our relationship with technology.
As we watch
which
it on technology,
which is
though.
an
Yeah.
endless well of like.
Yeah.
But even the medium it's using is like it's going
Yeah.
through the thing that they're ultimately kind of.
It's a double-edged sword, though, because
Critiquing.
what you're doing right now 10 years ago would have cost thousands of dollars
I
to
know,
do.
isn't it hilarious?
Like, so it's got its goods and bad
And it
sides.
costs nothing. That's a lie. It costs a lot of money.
It costs money. It still costs money. But
Yeah.
Not $10,000.
Right.
Listen, guys, we're over an hour.
Okay.
We did it. We actually did it, and we talked about Hollywood for half the time.
And Titanic.
Yeah,
Titanic.
Titanic,
This was
Hollywood.
the Mel Gibson podcast.
this is how it
This
goes.
was stem cells.
We mentioned our podcast at one point, I think, right?
I think at one point we
Yeah.
talked about you
Yeah.
guys just a little bit.
Well,
Yeah.
there's one last thing I really kind of wanted to ask.
Sure.
I
Okay.
wanted to ask about your first stand-up experience. Like,
Okay.
what you made the jump? Like, how was it?
Okay, stand-up fan forever, right? And when we started doing the show, I was like, I want to get some comic guests. So I started following comics. Every Houston comic I could find on Twitter, social media, whatever. I followed this guy, Jermaine Warren. Very funny. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's got one of the biggest Twitter followings around, so you should check him out. I followed him. He tweeted out that he was having a show. I went to the show, and I saw local comics. One of them was Brian Biggio, who still remains one of my good friends. And I saw that, and I was like, I knew that there was a scene in my city now. I just never knew that there was a scene, that there was any kind of way to plug in
It came
and
out of
do
nowhere.
comedy in Houston. And so you just start asking, right? And then I started going to the mics and watching. And the very first time I did stand up was at PJ's Sports Bar. I'm going to go there tonight after I leave here. I will support that mic as long as it's around.
Hell yeah.
It's awful. I seriously, I love the guys who run it, but I do not recommend
Get it together.
I do not recommend that anyone goes there. It's bad. It's a bad
Okay.
bar. But I went up there, and you know what? For me, I never played sports. Anything that I tried, I always quit. And this is the first thing that, like, I went
You gotta
up
keep at
and
it.
I sucked dick at it, and I was like, I can't wait to do it again. And so I haven't
yeah,
stopped.
dude.
I'm just like, you know what? Like, I don't care. I want to get good at this. I like being here. I like doing this thing. And a big draw of it is the community. I think too. Like I said, like I just. I like comics. I like
Yeah.
hanging
Yeah,
out with
me
comics.
too.
And it's amazing to watch his evolution, like on our own podcast, because like one week he's saying like I'm going to go to my first open mic tonight, and then now I'm going to 2 open mics a week. Now I've got my first show, and you kind of see him grow like through the podcast, which is pretty cool.
I'm learning sports lessons about like slogging through it when you don't want to do it. practicing, even though it's not sexy or fun. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of people who start or attempt stand up think that you're going to go up and you're going to slam dunk it. People write a whole 5 minutes. They practice it at home in front of the mirror.
And it doesn't work.
And they go up there and they spit it out in a minute and a half and they eat shit. You talk fast, you sweat, and then you're not getting any laughs. You panic and you bail. You know.
Part of it.
I'm gonna pause. I'm gonna pee, and then we'll come back and we'll finish it off.
Okay. Oh man, this guy's drunk.
Cut this guy off.
I'm trying. I'm inside the pivot of the fucking floor.
Go.
You could probably just. All right.
Jesus. But yeah, because we hang out around a lot of comics. I see a lot of like first timers stand up. You know, especially like a Gabe show. God damn it, there's a lot of dudes that go first, and I'm just like, man, fuck, how do you make that jump? Like, it's so intimidating to be able to go. I mean, I've never been a public speaker. Even just to read an essay in front of the class was like sweat, like seize up or whatever. But I've always been, you know, in a comedy and stuff like that. I just was curious about your first experience.
There's so much more to it than I even thought. A lot of it is networking, self-confidence, and
because you're right. I mean,
practice reps.
Yeah, you were saying that comics are kind of like cold, you know, isolated people, and that makes a lot of sense. You know, I don't know. I just not the ones that I know personally, but like I just read about certain comics, and they always have like insecurities or issues, stuff like that. Yeah, and it's,
I mean, they all do.
Yeah, so I don't know, but it's funny because I've also heard too that like, in order to be a successful stand-up comic, you got to like bomb hard for like for a long time, right?
You I don't know. I feel like some people hear that and they think the way to get good is to just slog away and suck at it. If anyone's listening and they're thinking about doing stand-up, that's not what I'm recommending. Your goal is to get laughs every single time you go up. But you can't be deterred when you don't do, when you're not instantly
because you will
good
bomb.
Yes.
It's absolutely a part of the process.
Everything else in my life is like, I was always a pretty smart kid and a good reader. So like when I, in school, if I just did the bare minimum, I could get by and make a B, right? And if you get by and make a B in comedy, you suck. You fucking suck. You have to try hard. You have to study. You have to write jokes. You have to tape your sets, listen to your sets. And I mean, it's work. It's fucking work.
It's very foreign to me because I get to prepare a song for months with other guys and get input and like.
But it's similar because you're creating, like when you create a joke and you create a song, you're crafting something. And then for me, the most difficult part of both those things, and I'm not a joke maker, is knowing when it's done and saying like, I can finish this now. Especially with music where I'm like, well, you could have a little more here, a little more. And what blows my mind is when I listen to bands that are really scaled back, and I'm like, how do they decide to not do something bigger or crazier here? And that's what starts tripping me out.
Oh, I mean that's probably one of the biggest, I think, issues that our band faces. Like, because like that's why we've brought in a producer now, because some of our demos it's just chaos. Yeah. And then he can go, this is a good song, but you have way too much going on right
Scale
now.
it back, tighten it up.
Like you don't need to have.
It doesn't always need to be there. Yeah, less is more.
Just because you can do a crazy solo over this doesn't mean you should.
But that's the part of my brain where I'm like, how the fuck do I know when or when not?
Yes, I'm with you.
And that's what makes someone have a good eye or a good ear and not. I mean, and that's what I've kind of learned is some people just kind of fucking have it, dude.
Yeah.
And you guys have it. You podcasters, you bad motherfuckers, you. Thank you guys for coming on.
Thanks for having us.
We got to have both of you guys come back next
please
the show next time.
Let's do it again. Yeah. And if I swear to God, if we could go longer, we would. But people just stop listening after an hour. That's how it works. They're just like, YouTube, we got to go. Sorry.
I got to pee too, so
you can pee.
I'm not too mad right now.
Right now, yeah.
This is tile.
no one can see
it's
you
down
exactly.
There, it'll clean up very easily.
Yeah.
There's no hidden cam underneath like your crotch.
Well, again, thank you guys so much. Seriously, I think you guys as of a brother podcast in Houston, you guys are killing it. Please keep killing it. I want to see you guys doing this 10 years from now, just like we hopefully will.
Great name.
First of all, great name.
Regular Dude Report.
Yeah.
RDR.
Yeah. Let's do this again.
Likewise,
Seriously,
you guys. I mean, best of luck to you guys. You guys are doing fantastic. You're killing it. Like you guys are doing amazing, and
we're trying.
You're doing video now and stuff. I mean, that's so cool. Like
video, right?
Yeah.
People get to see our ugly faces.
People want that, right?
Yeah.
Podcast bros.
All right, Julian, what's going on with us? We got Kyle Hubbard.
Kyle Hubbard coming up.
Kyle Hubbard on Thursday, which is going to be probably Saturday for you, whoever's listening. And then next week, we're going to have Bernie Pink on. and just keep it nice and fucking local, and try to really
be consistent.
Try to slay through some of these people that have been killing it for the past year that we've been slacking on because we've been so busy with Volcom and with just other
creative endeavors,
bigger fish.
Yeah.
But we're not going to forget about the big fish that are here in Houston. And other than that, subscribe, like, do your thing. It's all algorithm based, and we're fucked if you don't help us out there because it's algorithm based. That's it.
Yeah, and the algorithm's getting harder now, by the way.
They're making it more difficult. Now it's
Yeah.
going to be where you can only look at your like family and friends.
Whoa.
They're going to get ranked higher than normal than what you've already get.
Yeah, meaning
Damn.
bands.
So you have to be shut the fuck out of.
We really need you, viewer/listener. Thank you guys so much again. Regular Dude Report. Everybody, please check them out. What's the easiest way? iTunes or what?
We're on iTunes.
iTunes.
Regular Dude Report. We got regulardudereport.com.
Cool.
We're on all social media as letter R, letter D _ report.
Nice. We're going to post all that information up right here so you guys can see it. We're out of here. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
All right. Bye.